Hello, everyone. My name's Imrul, and I'm a graduate student of computer science. I've been working with Dr. Charlotte Tang for quite a bit of time now in several research projects. And to work on our research projects, we use a software called Dedoose, and that's very efficient to, you know, capture your research findings, and it will also save a lot of your time. So let's go to Dedoose and I'll try to show you some basics. I'll share my screen and open Dedoose here. So if you go to Dedoose, and the first thing you will have to do is to log in. I could show you that to now, but it's okay. I mean, if you open Dedoose, it will take you to a login screen if you give your username and passcode. And if you log in, you will see this screen right after that, where you will see, on top left, your projects, and then, some fields that describes, whatever you are doing with your projects. And then, you can import data, you can export data, you can see your codes, media, excerpts, and, descriptor, and also some analyze from those descriptors. For example, ratio, I will talk about those later. And then on top left corner, you know, so the first menu that comes, pin or unpin the header button. So the header buttons, you can, have those, or you can minimize those, to have a bigger screen size. I'll keep it. And then the next one is volume, you know, so on Dedoose, you can import different kind of data. For example, you can import text, you can import audio or video files. So for those audio and video files, you can control this volume. You can set it on high or low or whatever you prefer. And then the next one is background task. So, on several times, you can do different things. For example, you can copy a project, which is gonna take a long time, so Dedoose allows you to do that on background, so that Dedoose will keep doing that while you can still keep working on your project. And then the next one is active users. You can see how many users are working in a project. So for now, I'm the only user who is working in this project. And then the next one is message. So when you work in a team, you can send a message to your, peers to share idea, or, to discuss anything if you want. And then you have help center. And then the next button is reload. So when, several people's working on the same project, Dedoose might not always, keep very up to date. It might, let's say, be a couple seconds behind. So if you want to see what your other team members are doing, on the right time, on exactly that time, you may want to reload, if you are a little behind, from them. The next one is log out. You can log out. And then you see we're at home now. And then the next one is codes, and then media, then you have excerpts, then you have descriptors, then you can do some analyze. Dedoose has those built-in analyze functions for you. And then memos. So I'll tell you what are those. And then training, then security, data sets, and projects. So from data sets, you can do different filterings, and from projects, you can create a project, or you can, if you're working on multiple projects, you can also load a project. So if you click on create projects, you will set the project title and project descriptions. And if you do the submit, Dedoose will create the projects for you. So for demonstration purposes, I have already created a project that's called the first one, driving experience. So if you load this, you will find this exact same menu. So if it comes to, let's say, you want to create some codes. So what are the codes? So codes are where you want to capture your excerpts from your transcript. So let's say I will import a transcript and try to show you, what you do on codes. So I have imported already one transcript, and you can import as many as you want. You know, you will have to just, if you click on that plus button, and it will, show you import text, images, or whatever. So I want to import, let's say, a text document. So that's called transcript participant 6. So if you select that and open, okay, Dedoose says complete. So Dedoose has imported this transcript for me. And if you now go to this media, you will see this transcript 6. So let's say for the first one, I want to open this and I want to capture several driving, data. For example, I want to capture whether people drive a car or not. Then I want to capture how frequently they drive, how many times they drive. And then I want to also capture what are the problems they face when they drive a car. I want to also capture what are the strategies they use to avoid a problem. And then the last one, let's say for now, I want to capture what are the different locations, they drive to. So to do that, you will have to create some codes. So I have already created some codes to show you, but you can create as many as you want. So for example, driving A to Z. So this is the first code I created. I want to capture all the driving related data inside this code. And for this code, you can also add child codes. You see, I have already added some child codes. Those child codes say, let's say, driving frequency, driving locations, and problems of when they drive a car, and also self-driving. I mean, I'm not talking about a self-driving car, rather, whether people drive themselves or they cannot drive. So that information I want to capture here. But, you can add more codes. For example, I want to add a code, let's say, not driving, let's say riding a vehicle, riding a car. Let's say, for example, it can be Uber or Lyft, something like that. And you can also add description to that code. Let's say you are working, in a team of 5, and you want to let your peers know, for what reason you created this code, and what are the informations they should also capture, inside this code. So, you know, everything related to riding a vehicle. So if you create descriptions like that, so, if you just, hover over that, you're also, all the teammates will be able to see what the information they should capture, inside that code. So like that. And I can also add, several child codes inside that parent code. No, that's what I'm not doing now. Rather, I will show you something else. So, and inside these child codes, you can create, more child codes. So it's kind of like a hierarchy. So see, problems of when drive a car, that's a child code of driving A to Z. And then within that code, I created another child code that says, strategy to avoid uncomfortable driving situation, or strategy to avoid problems when they drive a car. Now, let's go back to our media. If you double click on any transcript, so you will see that interview data. And I have looked at this a little bit, before I prepared this tutorial, so I know where is what. So for example, let's say, how often do you typically drive or ride in a motor vehicle? The participant says, probably 5 days a week at least. So that's what you want to capture inside driving frequency code, right? How many times they drive, you're interested to capture this one. for your, later on research findings. So if you double click on that, if you right click on that, and then if you click on add codes, you will see all of your codes. And let's say I'm gonna add this to driving frequency. If you double click on that code, so Dedoose will capture this excerpt inside that code. And you can be sure by looking at this selection info where it will say driving frequency is added here. That means you have added this excerpt to that code. And you can also look from, hovering over to that, to the left side of that, excerpt. It will show you the name of the codes as well. So let's say next I want to capture, do you drive yourself when you go out? If they drive themselves when they go out. And if you find any problem in your transcript, you can also, edit your transcript from there. So let's say I want to add a, you know, question marks here. Do you drive? So you can, if you just click on that, lock button, so it will show you unlocked. Then you can edit your transcript. So let's say I want to add a question mark, and then I want to lock it again. So if you click on the lock, it will say, we have made changes. You want to save this change? I said yes. So next question, do you drive yourself when you go out? The participant says yes. So I want to capture this information. And earlier I showed you, if you right click on this, it will come like this, add codes. But you can do it another way, for more quickly. If you just press the space bar, you will find all the codes. And then let's say self-driving. So I want to capture this inside self-driving. That means my participant 5 drives by himself. And then the interviewer asked, where do you usually drive yourself? Participant said, I drive for shopping appointments, my daughter's out to eat restaurants, etc. So I want to capture this because I want to know what are the driving locations. What are the locations, that people drive to? So I want to add this to, let's say, driving locations. So I will double click on that. And then, have you ever encountered any problems? No. The next question they ask, do you have any particular strategies to avoid problems? Participant answered, I just try to go to speed limit now because I have always been speeding. So you want to add this to strategy to avoid uncomfortable, driving or avoid problems. So he tries to go to that speed limit, to avoid any accidents or, something like that. So that's how you add codes. You add excerpts to your codes. And let's say you want to add it, something that you don't find appropriate code for that. So to do that, you can quickly add from this code section. If you click on that plus, you can quickly add, codes that will be appropriate for your excerpt. So like this, you do that. Now let's go to the next section, excerpts. So these are the excerpts I have added so far. It will show you, which are the media for this excerpt. Which are the transcripts for that excerpt. And if you just hover over that, it will show you the excerpts you added for, to a code. So the left side, it shows you the excerpt, and the right side, you see the driving location. So that's the code, where you added this excerpt. So the next one is descriptor. I want to talk about a little bit about descriptor. So descriptor are basically, you want to capture your participants' demographics inside this descriptor, so that it helps you, to better analyze the data. For example, let's say you want to see the male and female ratio for your participants, or you want to, find any information for a particular age group. So those kind of things you can do from here. So Dedoose created a default set for me, and I want to add just some fields to show you. Let's say I want to add age. I want to capture participants' age, and then field type. So you will have to select the field type. So age is a number. I will select a number for this and I'll submit. And then I want to capture, let's say, gender, GER. I'll capture gender, and then gender is, so from different sets, I'll select option list because gender is the option list and I want to add two options for this. Let's say male and another one is female, and then I will submit. So now the right side, now this is not only the task you do. Now you will have to link this descriptor to your, media. So let's say I go back to media, and the right side you see descriptor 0. I mean, this media, I didn't add it to any of this descriptor, but I want to add. So if you click on that, and if you go to that create and link descriptor, so you want to create. So for participant 5, let's say participant 5's age is 45 years old and he is a male. So you do that and then you submit. So it is linked. Let's say you want to link the next one, transcript 6. So I want to create again. Let's say age is 70 years and she is a female. So you submit that. Now your media is linked to those, I mean, your descriptor is linked to those media. And I'll show you what happens if you do this. So now if you go to this descriptor and if you click on linked media, so and also linked titles, so you will be able to see that, participant 5, and from here you will be able to see all those demographics, for example, age, gender, and all other information, maybe their zip code or whatsoever you want to know. All those demographics you can find from here. And then if you go to this analyze, so Dedoose has different set of analyze methods for you. For example, codes versus descriptors. So, what are the codes and what are the descriptors? Then let's say if you go to that qualitative chart, 3D code cloud. So which are the codes you added most descriptors or something like that? So you can have, I mean, you can explore yourself this, you can play around and, you can see what are the different types of analyze Dedoose do for you. Let's say excerpt count versus media. So all those analyze you will be able to see by yourself, And then memo. So you can add a memo from here or also from media. Let's say I open a media and then I want to capture something that I don't want to add to any codes, but I want to keep that information, for my future analyze. So first question, have you ever used a shared ride service? Not really, maybe on vacation. So the participant did not use a shared ride service, but occasionally when he or she was on vacation. So you want to do that to, you want to add that to, let's say, not to codes, but I want to keep this information for future record. So you want to add this as memo. So let's say I want to name this using shared ride, and then you want to write a description for that, this participant only used shared ride on vacation while he drives a vehicle mostly. And if you save this, so you have this inside your memo, and you can add more memo. For example, for your notes, memo is kind of like a note, I would say. Let's say week 1. So when I started working on this project, what are my plans for week 1, for the first week? So you want to write this plan, whatever your plan for first week, you want to write those and you want to save that. And when you go back, so you will quickly able to see, your plans for week 1, week 2, 3, 4, and so on. So those you do this on memo. Then training is really not needed for your analyze. It's, to see, let's say 2 people are working in a group, and to see, how differently you code from each other, or, maybe to find out if anyone's following the best practices for coding, you know, how qualified your teammate is to work on this project, or to train your teammate, you want to use this feature training. I'm not gonna show you this because, we really didn't need this ever. And then security. So from here, you can see the members that are working on this project. You can add members from here. If you edit group, if you change group, you can remove a user from group. If you edit group, you can edit group, or you can, remove user, you can add user from there. Then if you go to these data sets, you will be able to filter your data, differently. Let's say, so data set, you can see how many descriptors, how many resources actually are media. I have added 2 media files, how many users, how many codes. I have 7 codes so far, and I have 5 excerpts. So those are the information you can see from here. If you go to this descriptor, I have added 2 descriptors for 2 transcripts. So you will see all of those from here. If you wanna, eliminate a media, you can filter out. So, you can unselect it. And if you go back to your media, so well, so if you go to your excerpts, so it's not going to show you any excerpts for that media. Or descriptor also. See, participant 5 is not there anymore, because from media, from descriptor, you unselected this one. Now I select it again. So you can filter out this like that. You can deactive or active, any of this media from here also. Let's say I wanna deactive participant 6. I don't want information about participant 6. So if you deactivate it from this data set and go back to media, you won't see participant 6. And for participant 6, you won't see any excerpts or any descriptor or any information for participant 6. But let's say select it again. And then if you go to that user, you will see the user. If you go to that code, you will see all of your codes. You can also filter codes. Let's say I don't want information about riding a car for now. Right now, I'm only working on, let's say, driving. So if you unselect it, and if you filter it out, and if you go to your codes, so you won't find anything inside this code riding a car. even if you added, let's say, many of those excerpts for that code. I'll select it again. So those are the basics you want to do. And then if you go to that home again, you see on the top left, you see number of users, number of media, number of descriptors, and those green, yellow, and red arrow means, if something goes towards the red, that means Dedoose and also you are losing control of your projects. Let's say if maybe 100 or more users working on the same project, it's going to be very difficult for Dedoose and for you to, analyze those findings from this project. So, and anything, in green means you have full control over your data and it's going to be easy when it comes to analyze. So those and that. And you could also import from here, from this home screen, but Dedoose always, suggest if you want to import something, if you want to work on any of these modules, if you directly go to that module and import or work from there, because you will have, more control and more options to manipulate or whatever you want to do. You can also export data. For example, you can export your codes. You can export your codes. You can export your excerpts for a code. And you can do, stuffs like that. For example, let's say I want to see driving frequency or driving frequency. So if you click on this, you will see how many excerpts you added for that particular code. And you can see also active resources. So I have only added excerpts from participant 5 inside this code driving frequency. And all resources, you can see also participant 5. Active resources means if you would filter out anything from this data set, then you would only see the active resources and but you could also see all of your resources that you have added to this. So if you go to a particular code and if you want to export a code, you can do that. So let's say driving locations, I want to export this. So if you click on this and if you do that export excerpts, so there are many informations, but let's say you don't want to select none. I want to export only media title and then excerpt creator who created this excerpt, and then code applications. That means what are the excerpts inside that code. So you can export that code doing that. It will export this code, inside Excel or I believe also in CSV files. So if you do that, it will export this data. And if you export, I have something saved already so that I could show you. If you export the data, you will find something like this. Let's say I exported driving concerns and I exported only these 3 fields, media title and then excerpt creator and then what are the excerpt. So those are all the excerpts for different participants you will be able to see from here. So those are the basics you can do using Dedoose. And it really is helpful to analyze your data. And to know more, you have all the Dedoose tutorials on YouTube. If you want to do in-depth work on a module, or if you have problems with anything related to, let's say, media or descriptor or, excerpts, you can seek help from YouTube. Dedoose has those tutorials for you. So thank you guys for having this session with me, and I'll see you some other time, hopefully. Bye bye.